Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are looking at a story that honestly reads a lot less like your standard celebrity gossip and way more like a high tension Shakespearean tragedy. We're going to explore the complete narrative of Prince Harry's descent into isolation. We are looking at the structural, the physical, and the psychological severing of his ties with the British royal family. We'll map out exactly how a prince walks away from the only framework he has ever known and what really happens when the dust finally settles. Look at recent reports detailing his life right now. They paint a pretty stark picture. Quote, he relies almost entirely on Meghan because he feels his personal support network has vanished. He is left questioning what truly grounds him. Take a second. Let the absolute weight of that sink in. We are talking about a man born into literally one of the most visible, globally connected families in history. And now, he's reportedly relying on a one-woman support network. He's experiencing profound uncertainty about his own identity. So how did we actually get here? Let's get right into Section 1, the California isolation. Okay, let's dive into this. To really understand this whole journey, we've got to ground ourselves in the present-day reality of his life over in California. Sources close to the Duke say that while his focus on his kids, Archie and Lilibet, is completely unwavering, which is great, privately, he's experiencing this, quote, emotional drift he has never known before. Publicly, sure, we see a cheerful, engaged presence at various charity and philanthropic events. But privately, insiders are warning that life in the U.S. is becoming increasingly hard to manage. Walking away from his country, his relatives, and the highly structured framework of the monarchy has left him deeply isolated, lacking that broader social network that used to define his everyday existence. But this kind of profound isolation, it doesn't just happen overnight, right? It comes from a seriously fractured foundation. In his memoir, Spare, Harry actually looks at Prince William and asks, my beloved brother, my arch-nemesis, how had that happened? So the crucial point is, to understand his current drift in California, we really have to rewind the narrative and examine the profound rift that tore these brothers apart. Which brings us to Section 2, the royal breaking point. All right, picture this. We are far removed from the polite smiles of public engagements. The scene is set at Nottingham Cottage, right on the grounds of Kensington Palace. The year is 2019. Tensions had already been brewing for months, and William had come over to discuss what Harry called the whole rolling catastrophe of their relationship and their constant struggles with the press. But as you can imagine, the conversation derailed pretty fast. According to Harry, William started repeating press narratives, allegedly calling Meghan difficult, rude, and abrasive. And then, the argument escalated from verbal insults to an actual physical altercation. Harry writes that he walked into the kitchen just to get away, but William followed him. Just listen to this account. He grabbed me by the collar, ripping my necklace, and he knocked me to the floor. I landed on the dog's bowl, which cracked under my back, the pieces cutting into me. He alleges he was left with visible scrapes and bruises from this broken bowl. That is a very heavy accusation. Now, as with literally any conflict of this magnitude, there are two very distinct sides presented to us. On the left side here, we've got Harry's formal claim, an unprovoked physical assault resulting in actual bodily injury. But on the right, sources close to Prince William's camp have adamantly denied that any physical violence took place, insisting William was simply trying to help his brother navigate a really tense situation. Now, we aren't here to take sides, we're just looking at the facts, but we have to acknowledge that this totally irreconcilable difference in narratives, that became the absolute point of no return for them. And this brilliantly illustrates just how deep this dynamic has permeated our culture. It's actually been mapped out academically. This is a diagram from a media discourse study mapping out the conflict in the British royal family as a formal framework. Notice how Harry, William, Charles, and Meghan are categorized into these opposing slots of agent and patient. It shows how the media weaponizes these interpersonal relationships, turning what should be a deeply personal family breakdown into a massive, public, combative scenario for us to consume. It absolutely stopped being a family argument and became a full-blown institutional crisis. Moving on to Section 3, the Sandringham fix. When the family structure failed, the royal machinery took over. And let me tell you, it moved with astonishing speed. Look at this timeline. January 8th, 2020, Harry and Meghan announced their intention to step back. Just 5 days later, January 13th, the Queen summons everyone for the Sandringham Summit. By January 18th, the hard Megxit is completely finalized. They're stripped of working duties and their HRH titles. And then the critical blow. On February 28th, the committee known as robotic revokes their automatic state-funded police protection. In less than 2 months, boom, the entire institutional safety net just vanishes. Now, Harry absolutely does not view this rapid dismantling as some fair negotiation. In his own words, the Sandringham summit was an institutional fix. He alleges the whole thing was orchestrated by the private secretaries of the royal household, specifically three powerful aides he refers to as the bee, the wasp, and the fly. He claims these men consolidated their power through bold Machiavellian maneuver, basically pushing him right out of the royal fold while fiercely protecting the crown's core assets. That leads us right into Section 4, fighting for security. The loss of those core assets, specifically his security, pushed him into an intense, years-long legal warfare. So I want to pose this really high-stakes question to you. What happens when a prince actually loses his state protection? I mean, we aren't talking about losing some luxury VIP perk here. We're talking about the withdrawal of highly trained Metropolitan Police officers armed and equipped with global intelligence networks for a man who was literally born a target and served 2 combat tours in Afghanistan. The stakes we're looking at here are quite literally life and death. This security battle wasn't quick. It was a grueling step-by-step process. First, Robotic downgrades Harry's security to a bespoke status, meaning he had to give 30 days notice before even visiting the UK so they could assess the threat level. Second, when Harry offered to personally pay for the Metropolitan Police so taxpayers wouldn't be on the hook, the government flat out denied the request, basically saying police are not guns for hire. This forced step 3, Harry filing a massive lawsuit against the Home Office in 2022. But ultimately, step 4, after years of litigation, the UK Court of Appeal dismissed his challenge entirely. They ruled the government's decision was completely lawful, so he lost the safety net and he lost the battle to buy it back. And just to underscore that his fears were not just some unfounded paranoia, Neil Basu, the former lead for counter-terrorism policing in the UK, actually went on the record. He confirmed that there were, quote, disgusting and credible plots against Harry and Meghan that resulted in actual police investigations and prosecutions. The threats were very, very real, which makes that security downgrade a genuinely terrifying reality for a father just trying to protect his family. Let's move into our final section, Section 5, the psychological toll. Think about it. Fighting your family, fighting the government, and constantly fearing for your safety, that doesn't just happen in a vacuum. We really have to look at the cumulative psychological impact of all these unending battles. While fighting for his physical security, Harry was simultaneously waging a massive legal war against the UK tabloid press. He sued multiple newspaper groups for unlawful information gathering and phone hacking. In court submissions, his legal team detailed how decades of this relentless press intrusion caused a massive strain on his personal relationships. Harry himself said that the terrifying feeling of his every single move being tracked drove him, in his own words, paranoid beyond belief. Which brings us full circle to the whole overarching theme of today's explainer, isolation. You see, it's not just the physical distance from London to California. It's the state of being completely separated from others. It's feeling that emotional drift we talked about earlier. It's the profound uncertainty about your own identity after you've fought tooth and nail to walk away from the very framework that literally gave your life its shape, its rules, and its purpose. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that despite the lawsuits, despite the broken dog bowls and the tell-all memoirs, there is this striking vulnerability beneath it all. Listen to what Harry stated. I would love reconciliation with my family. I don't know how much longer my father has. He won't speak to me because of this security stuff. It perfectly captures the tragic paradox of his entire situation. This deep human yearning to reconnect with his family, completely blocked by the very legal and security battles that were triggered by his departure in the first place. So I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder as we wrap up today's explainer. When the institution is gone, when the court battles are all fought and the memoirs are already written, when the ties to the past are entirely severed, what is actually left to ground the spare? It's a heavy question, and it's one Prince Harry is seemingly trying to answer every single day. Thanks so much for joining me for this deep dive, and remember, always keep questioning the narratives behind the headlines.